Before a ball had been bowled in Nagpur, there were two eye-catching calls, one in each camp. Australia dropped the number 4 ranked batter in the world in Travis Head. Steve Waugh said it was hard to believe. Matthew Hayden said it left him speechless. Chad Sayers said it was a fucking disgrace. India, meanwhile, dropped arguably the most informed batter in international cricket right now in Shubman Gill. KL Rahul was preferred up top, with Surya Kumar Yadav coming in at 5 for his debut. Yadav has basically been picked in the test side on the back of his T20 form, despite his T20 form not quite being enough for him to nail down a spot on the ODI side. Ben, can you understand the Head decision first?
Yeah, it's a strange one. At first, I could see more the case for the Gill decision than the Head one, but the more I think about it, the more that I can see how they could have got to leaving out Travis Head, despite it obviously not being ideal. I mean, when you look at it on the face of it, a guy who's had that good a home summer, he's averaging 87.5, striking nearly on a ball. If that's not enough to keep him in the side for an overseas test, you can argue what's he doing in the side in Australia to begin with? Australia would be pretty confident of beating West Indies or South Africa, no matter who their number 5 is. They think they have a number 5 who might be an all conditions option who could do a job in Australia as well. But I can also see how they want to back Head as the guy who they think might be good enough to do it in all conditions. And yet you just get to India and there's a lot of stuff that will have happened that we won't have seen, basically. They've had obviously loads of quite intense practice sessions against, spinners on tough surfaces. And I can see how they think we know Travis Head has this issue. Let's give him the backing we can in Australia, where we know he's really good. Let's get to India. Let's see what we can work on with him. And then if he's not there, then we have other options. Basically, I don't think it's as simple as he scored loads of runs in Australia, therefore he should play, or he's rubbish in Asia, therefore he should never play in Asia. I think they've looked at his form probably. They've probably put quite a lot of weight on that, and I think that's kind of okay. The other thing as well is that his average is bad in Asia, as you know, it's 21.3. Even that is kind of inflated almost by runs back in 2018 on surfaces in Abu Dhabi, which they weren't really the sharp turning surfaces you get here. There was Australia were able to bat out to a draw in a 5-day game. That was the first match Tim Payne's captaincy. That doesn't really tell you a huge amount. Head getting 72 in that, and when you look back at the Sri Lanka series last year, I think it was a high score of 12 in the 2 test matches, and that's more similar where the pitches are kind of sort of biting and spitting and stuff. And I think that.
So I understand where you're coming from, but I completely disagree.
Yeah.
So Head's only played 5 test matches in the last 4.5 years in Asia. He has done so well in Australia that I think he deserved another go. And also, it's not as if Head has always been this very good player in Australia and just bad in Australia and bad elsewhere and bad in Asia. He's actually improved so much in a very short period of time. He obviously scored that 100 against England in the Ashes last year in a counter-attacking way. He's really embraced that kind of every time he's batted recently. It was before it was something that you could tell that that's how he wanted to play, and he was very good at it, but it wasn't how he played all the time. And it's not as if that they've got this Asia specialist that's come in the side for him. Matt Renshaw has played in India before. He averaged under 30. I know he got a first baller today, so that average is now down to 25. But it's not as if they've brought someone in who's got serious pedigree in Asia. And also, there's been so much chat in the Australian media more than anywhere else about what the pitches might be like. And we'll get on to Surya Kumar Yadav later on. But if you think Par's going to be 250 to 300 max, you want someone in the middle who can change the course of an innings or change the course of a session very quickly. And Head is that player much more than Renshaw is. I get what you're saying, that we haven't seen what they've been like in training, and it's possible that Head's been all over the place in training. But I kind of wonder, what does Head feel? He's averaged 87, as you say, in a home summer. Players like David Warner's got a pretty poor record in India, he's got a poor record in England, yet there's never really chat that Warner gets dropped for those series. Whereas Head, as I say, he's only played 5 test matches in the last 4.5 years in Asia. Yeah,
well, I guess you almost hope in a way that Head has been absolutely hopeless in training. Otherwise, this must be absolutely crushing for him. On Renshaw, I do take the point to an extent about his record in India not being great. I mean, it's not like they've picked, Michael Clark or even Keaton Jennings or something. But that he arrived at that number in quite a different way to how Head's arrived at a similar number. So in that first test in 2016-17, it was a low-scoring test. Steve Smith makes one of the all-time great hundreds in the third innings. Steve O'Keefe takes sort of twin 6 for 26 or something.
6:35.
6 for 35. That's it. And India are spun out. But Renshaw sets up that win with a 60 odd opening the batting in the first test. And I think that will have carried a fair amount of weight. Just the fact that even if he's done it even once in those kind of conditions, that's one more time than Head has done it. So I guess all I feel is that
I disagree. I mean,
I guess I just feel that in the back, because of all the things that you say, it must have been that they looked at these two guys in training and thought, like, one of these guys is we just think this guy is much more likely to succeed than this other guy, basically.
Personally, I don't think it should have been close. I mean, Head, you say that those two innings in Abu Dhabi and Dubai in 2018 should be taken into consideration how far away they were. But also that Pakistan tour, as we know from having watched just a lot of England in Pakistan, completely different pitches to India. So in reality, he's actually only batted 3 or 4 times in Test cricket in pitches anything like what we're going to see here. And that was when he was batting in a very different way to how he bats now. And the way he bats now, you'd think is suited to having relative success in these conditions. And I think, even though you might agree with his selection,
I don't know if I agree with it. But I'm trying to work out how they might have come to it. And I think there's probably a lot of information that just from having seen the Test cricket we're able to see, that's not all the information that they made the decision on. I think.
Okay, I agree with that. But do you agree with me that Australia have still potentially overthought this, and it is potentially a glimpse into their overall thinking? To me, this reminds me of England picking sides for day-night Test matches, where they focus so much on what conditions might be for a very short period of time, and then basically forget to go about things normally, only to realise that conditions weren't that different to normal. So, for example, in Adelaide 2021, England don't play Mark Wood when they're 1-0 down in the series. He's clearly in their best 3 bowlers. And instead they pick a team, a bowling attack of 4 guys who are low 80 miles per hour, because basically that twilight period is when you want those guys. Yeah,
and I guess the other thing as well is that obviously, so the other thing that will make the decision harder for Head to take is that it's 2 players that have sort of come in effectively. I mean, in a way, Renshaw has retained a spot, but it looks like it was a shootout between him and Head because of Australia not wanting to have too many left-handers. But because Green has also had to miss out, which means Hanscom's come in, they also haven't got a bowling option in the top 6 really, and Head would have been the best bowling option. I know that would have meant 3 off-spinners considering they picked Todd Murphy, but sometimes you do just want another bowler just to have a bit of a break, and so that is also something that makes it more puzzling. And yeah, the fact that they've gone with Renshaw again even over that as well, yes, it's very surprising. Yeah, it's
What about Shubman Gill?
Well, yeah, because I guess
4 international hundreds already this year.
Got
a Test 100 not that long before as well.
So the logic, I guess, is that, well, I guess there's 2 bits of logic. So firstly, you're looking at the opening spot, Gill or Rahul, and I think KL Rahul is that's a fine decision to make. I mean, KL Rahul has at points been, one of the best Test openers in the world. Sure, his form has not been great, but I can see why you back him. I think he captained India in their last Test match. So that's okay. And then you're looking at number 5, and for a similar logic for why you're saying Australia should have picked Travis Head, I guess that's just why India have gone with Sky, because they think that, he could, win the game in a session kind of thing. A sparky 30-odd could end up proving key. I guess 2 things are Gill, I think, well, a few things. Gill can play like that. I mean, that Test that they won at the Gabba to win that series in 2021, that was a proactive, sparky innings. I mean, his T20 form can be questioned, but he's a brilliant ODI batter, and that's kind of what you want. You don't want someone really playing a shot at ball. You want someone who can sort of take advantage of anything even slightly loose. I think that's what you want, really. I also just think, if you ask me, who do I think is the better suited to Test cricket and the better Test batter out of Gill and Sky, it's just Gill. He is a technically very solid player. He is, I think this may well, we look back at it as the year of Shubman Gill. He is a brilliantly skillful player, and I think that he is just more reliably going to score runs. I think that really should be the thing. And the other thing about Sky as well, he obviously he is an excellent player of spin in T20 cricket, but we haven't seen the evidence in international cricket, at least, that he can face the turning ball when it is turning. And when India and New Zealand played a low scoring T20I a few weeks ago, he did see them home, but it was at a strike rate of 60, and he was not getting shots away. It was not as if he sort of came out and defied the surface. I mean, that would be harsh to judge him based on that, but it's just say that we haven't seen it yet, I guess.
I do see it. It's kind of similar to why I think Head should have been a shoe-in for Australia. I do understand why if par is going to be about 275, why having someone at number 5 who can change the course of a session is really, really valuable. So I do understand it. I guess with the Gill decision, I'm just disappointed because I would have really liked to have seen Gill. So yesterday when I got back from the pub, I whacked on highlights of the final day at Brisbane just to get myself in the mood for the series, really. And I hadn't forgotten about that Shubman Gill innings, but I definitely forgot how good it was. And also in the context of that game, they just don't win the game without that Gill innings. I mean, Pant and to an extent Pujara get the majority of the credit, but they don't come close. Gill was scoring very quickly straight away. Pant ends up with a strike rate of 64 in that final day, but he's actually striking at just under 50 for the majority of his innings. It's only at the very end does he kind of catch up. Gill was absolutely amazing. That was a 20-year-old against an amazing Australia attack in home conditions. And I kind of think that given he's on this wave, should India have got him to ride it? I feel like it's a missed opportunity. I can understand much more how they've ended up not picking him, but I do think, it's almost like England not picking Harry Brook kind of vibes. Almost, it's like I'll cut this bit out, but yeah, I can see how India have come to this decision. I don't think I agree with it though.
Yeah.
Anyway, we have at the time of recording, India are going very well, but Test in India can change very quickly. Ben, myself, and the Wisden team will be popping up on the YouTube channel throughout the series, reacting to the most high-profile series in the world as it plays out. Give us a subscribe and see you soon.